right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for your time this morning. We are starting these seminars for Nerdio for Azure with Joseph Landes. Joseph is Chief Revenue Officer at Nerdio, and he will be our speakers during these 3 days. So welcome, Joseph, and here's our audience from all Latin America and the Caribbean.
Great. Thank you so much. It's great to be here. As you said, my name is Joseph Landes. I wish I could give this session in Spanish, but my Spanish is not good enough, so we're going to do it in English. And today's class is going to be called Demystifying Azure for MSPs. So I assume that everyone who's listening today is a managed service provider, is someone who is providing IT services for companies in your country. And we are going to talk about why it's time for you to start moving your practice to Microsoft Azure. I had the opportunity to work at Microsoft for 23 years, and I worked for all 3 CEOs, for Satya, for Steve, and for Bill. And Satya said something quite recently that I thought was very interesting. He said that if you step back and you think about it, in the next few years, there's no question that there will be a lot more happening in the public cloud, because the public cloud is much more efficient. And as I think we've all learned during this unfortunate pandemic, the ability to be able to provide the business continuity that you need, and the ability to give your companies that you're providing IT services for the ability to work from home or to work from anywhere is very important. And this is really only possible with the public cloud and with Microsoft Azure. So the question is, if this is so clear, why are more MSPs not moving to the cloud? What is stopping MSPs from moving to the cloud? Part of it is what we call inertia. Inertia means I've done something the same way for a long time, so I will keep doing things that way. And that's fine, you can do that. However, there are other reasons that people are not moving to Microsoft Azure. I'm going to list 3 reasons that I think more MSPs don't move to Microsoft Azure. The first reason is they say, look, I'm an MSP, I'm here in Jamaica, I'm here in Peru, and I don't have any people in my company who know how to build a customer environment in Azure. So I would have to go hire someone, and that would be expensive. It would create an expense for my business, and I don't want to spend that money hiring new employees. The second challenge that MSPs face is they say, I think that Azure is complicated. I've tried to use Microsoft Azure and I find it complicated. I don't understand it. And then the third challenge MSPs face is they say it's risky. Why is it risky, do they think, to move to the cloud? Well, most MSPs are used to buying a hardware. They know how to buy a server and install that server at the customer. Now we're saying, welcome to the world of consumption. Welcome to a world where you need to charge your customer based on how much they consume. So a lot of MSPs say, well, I don't know how much my customer is going to consume, so I think it's risky, and I'm not going to move them to the cloud. Those are the 3 main reasons that we find MSPs not moving to the cloud with Microsoft Azure. And what we're going to talk about in this class today are what I call the 4 steps to building an Azure practice, the 4 things that you need to know in order to transform your business from the on-premises world into the cloud. Let's jump right in. So, the first piece that you need to know, the first thing you need to know is that Microsoft Azure is very big, but very little of it is actually relevant to you as an MSP. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, Microsoft Azure has more than 1,000 cloud services. It's a very, very big effort for Microsoft. And it's very easy for you as an MSP to go to the Azure portal, to go to Microsoft Azure and get confused and get overwhelmed and think, wow, this is so big, I'm never going to learn all of this. Most of what you see in Microsoft Azure, you never need to know anything about. It's not something that is relevant to you as an MSP who needs to bring their first customer to Azure. What is relevant to you? What do you need to know about? It's the infrastructure services on the bottom row of this slide. It's things like compute, storage, networking, backup, Active Directory. Now, the good news for you is that these are topics that you already know a lot about. I'm sure every MSP on this call today is offering a backup solution for their customer, right? You need to offer backup to your customer, but now you need to learn how to do backup in Microsoft Azure. You need to learn how to do Active Directory in Microsoft Azure. So it's a question of taking the same terms, the same things that you already know, and bringing them to the cloud with Microsoft Azure. You know, we've sorry, hello?
Joseph, yes, sorry to interrupt. We have one request. If you can remove the Teams window in the slideshow screen, please.
For some reason, it's not letting me do that. Good question. Let me try again. Give me 1 second here.
Okay.
Let's share again. Let's switch to the PowerPoint again. Let me know in a moment if you could see the slides.
Yes, much better.
Let me switch back.
Perfect,
Sorry.
thank you.
Back. Okay, you can see the slide okay? Okay,
yes.
Great. So, you know, everybody is familiar with these terms, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. Well, you know, you all know about SaaS because you're probably all purchasing from Intcomex, Microsoft's most popular SaaS product, Microsoft 365. What we're going to talk about today is IaaS, infrastructure as a service. But, you know, the concepts of PaaS and data services, you don't need to know anything about. That is not what we're going to focus on today, and you don't need to know that to get going with Azure. To make things easy for you, we've written a white paper. It's called an MSP's Guide to Azure Terminology, Elements, and Hierarchy. I've put a link to the white paper here on the slide. And if you download this white paper, you're going to learn all of the basic terms, all the different words you need to know to get started with Microsoft Azure. Now, certainly one of the most important things that you need to know is how do you buy Microsoft Azure? Where do you get Microsoft Azure? So there are many ways for an MSP to get Microsoft Azure, and they are all, you know, perfectly legitimate, fine ways to do it. Now, if you look at the center of the screen, you see this term here, PAYG. Does anyone of our clients here on the phone know what PAYG stands for? Feel free to unmute yourself and just say it. PAYG, does anyone know? Okay, so PAYG stands for pay as you go. Pay as you go is the most expensive way to purchase Microsoft Azure. It's the list price, the MSRP. You as an MSP should definitely not do pay as you go. What is the way that you should be purchasing Microsoft Azure? From the CSP program. You should be what's called a CSP reseller, where you go to Intcomex, who is an indirect provider, a cloud distributor, and you should purchase Microsoft Azure from Intcomex. That is the best way to do it. And we're going to talk in a few minutes about why that is. But when you go to Intcomex, what is it that you're actually buying? When you buy Microsoft Azure, what are you purchasing? Well, the first thing you're doing when you go to Intcomex is you're getting an Azure subscription. The Azure subscription is the basic way that they set you up to pay for Microsoft Azure. It's the transactional relationship. And once you get your subscription, then you need to fill the subscription with Azure resources. You know, you could think about a subscription sort of as like an empty glass. If nothing's in the glass, you're not going to get a lot of satisfaction out of it. So the subscription is the empty glass, and then you fill the subscription with the water, the soda, the juice. What is that? It's the Azure resources. It's what makes Microsoft Azure go. And Microsoft has many different types of resources that you need to learn about when you move to Azure. The most basic one is compute. You know, compute are the virtual machines that you use in order to move to Azure. Microsoft actually calls these virtual machines by different letters, by different family names, the D, the E, the A, the B, the F. Each one does something a little bit different, so you need to learn, why would I use a D versus an E? Why would I use an A versus a B? Microsoft has different types of storage resources in Azure. They have what's called local redundant storage, zone redundant storage, geo-redundant storage, and each one does something a little bit different, so you need to learn, why would I want one type of storage versus the other? Microsoft has different types of networking in Azure, and Microsoft has 62 what are called data center regions. These are the places, the buildings where Microsoft stores Azure. Think of a data center region as kind of like a football field size building. You know, it's a huge building filled with Azure resources. So you as an MSP need to decide where you want your Azure resources to run. So for example, you know, if maybe you're in the Eastern Caribbean, maybe you would run your Azure resources in the East US data center. If you're in the southern part, maybe you'd run it in the South Central US data center. Typically, you would run your data center, your Azure resources in a data center that is closest to your customer. We've written a white paper on this topic as well, an MSP's Complete Guide to Azure Resources, where we teach you what each Azure resource is about. Again, you could type in that URL and you will have access to the white paper. Okay. We now are moving to the part of the presentation, the part of the workshop today, where we are going to talk about how you as an MSP can make money in Microsoft Azure. A lot of MSPs, they think incorrectly that they can't make money in Microsoft Azure, that they can make more money with their on-premises server than they can in Microsoft Azure. And I am here to tell you that that is absolutely not the case. You could make more money in the cloud and you could do it in a very, very efficient way. But to understand how to do that, you know, you have to understand how you are billed for Microsoft Azure. How does Microsoft charge you for Azure? Well, you know, there's two ways primarily that you're charged. There are two meters that are spinning, the compute meter and the operating system meter. You are paying Microsoft to rent compute and to rent the Windows Server operating system. The more these two meters spin, the faster they spin, the more money you pay. The slower they spin, the less money you pay. So you as an MSP, you know, your goal is to figure out, how do you create an amazing offer for your customers while still making sure that the price that you're paying for Microsoft Azure is not very high. And everything comes down to really these two meters, because 68% of the cost of running Microsoft Azure for a virtual desktop is compute, and 28% is storage. So it's very important for you to really understand how the compute meter works, how the operating system meter works. And if you could understand that, you will make a lot of money selling Microsoft Azure. The other goal, of course, is that you want to be able to create a fixed cost offering in Microsoft Azure. You know, you can't go to your customer every month and change the price for your IT services. You need to give them a fixed price, a set price. You need to tell them how much it's going to cost each month, and then you need to deliver. A lot of MSPs are worried because with Microsoft Azure, depending on how much you use, your price can go up or down. So how do you as an MSP create a fixed cost price in a consumption-based world? Well, that's what we're going to talk about now. We're going to talk about how you save money off of the list price of Azure. If you remember, we said that the list price of Azure is called the pay-as-you-go price, the most expensive price. So you don't want to pay the pay-as-you-go price. You want to pay less than the pay-as-you-go price. And if you pay less, it gives you more margin. It gives you a bigger discount to be able to save money and then create a good offer for your customer and make money yourself. So we're going to go through 4 ways for you to save money off of the list price of Azure. And we recommend that every MSP do these 4 things. We've written a white paper also on this subject, Azure Margin Optimization for MSPs. If you want to take a look at it, it's there, and you'll be able to, everything I say in this part of the class is in the white paper. So let's jump right in. The first thing that you want to do in order to save money off of the list price of Azure is you want to become a CSP reseller from Intcomex. You want to become a CSP reseller from Intcomex. And why do you want to do that? Because you are going to save money off of the list price of Azure. Intcomex will give you a discount. I don't know what that is. That's up to them to tell you. But they're going to give you some discount off of the published pay-as-you-go price for Azure. In addition, Microsoft is always running special programs in the region for the CSP reseller base. So you have to become a CSP reseller. It's the first thing that we always tell MSPs to do is become a CSP reseller with Intcomex so that you could qualify for a discount off of the published pay-as-you-go price, and so you could take advantage of special programs, special rebates that are going on for the CSP reseller channel. So step 1, become a CSP reseller, because there's no reason to pay the full price. You might as well start by becoming a CSP reseller with Intcomex. Once you've done that, the second thing you want to do, the second step in terms of saving money off the list price of Azure is to do something called Azure Reservations, is to use a licensing program from Microsoft called reserved instances. What is a reservation? What is a reserved instance? The idea is that you go to Intcomex and you say, I would like to make a reservation on a certain amount of Azure compute. I'd like to make that reservation for either 12 or 36-month period in a specific data center region and a specific virtual machine family. Remember, we said the virtual machine families are called by the different letters, the A, the B, the D. Let's go through that again. You, the MSP, you call Intcomex and you say, I'd like to reserve a certain amount of compute for the next 12 or 36 months. You have to choose one. I'd like to do it in a specific data center region like the South Central US data center region and for a specific virtual machine family. And if you do that, Microsoft will give you up to a 57% discount off of the published pay-as-you-go price for Azure Compute. 57%. 57. I think I got that right. That is a tremendous discount, right? That's not 1 or 2 points, it's 57% potentially. So, you know, we recommend at Nerdio you always make a 36-month reservation. Now, you might be sitting here saying, why would Microsoft give me such a big discount, you know, off of the pay-as-you-go price? I've never done anything in Azure before. Well, the answer is simple. Microsoft is always building new data centers, and if they know you are making a reservation in a specific data center, it makes it easier for Microsoft to manage their supply chain, and they will pass on the savings to you. Now, you might also be asking another question. You might be saying to yourself, well, isn't this risky, Joseph? You know, what if my customer goes out of business? What if I go out of business? You know, I have this 3-year reservation that I've made. You know, what happens if I leave? What's going to happen? Well, good news. At any time, you can actually cancel the reservation and you could return it to Microsoft through Intcomex, and the most you will pay is 12% not of the whole reservation, but only of the months you have not used. So let's say, Victor here, he makes a 36-month reservation, and after 12 months, he loses his client. He could return the reservation to IntcomeX, and he would pay 12%, not of the full 36 months, but only of the 24 months that are left. So this is the highest level discount you could get on compute. And the other reason that you want to do this is because if you go back to the two different meters that we talked about, the compute and the operating system meter, when you make a reservation, you're locking in the price of compute, and you are effectively stopping the compute meter from spinning. You don't have to pay for compute because you have already priced out and reserved the amount of compute your customer needs. So the meter is not going to be spinning around anymore. It's just going to stop because you've already paid for the compute that you need. Those are reservations. The third way to save money off of the list price of Microsoft Azure is to do something called Azure Hybrid Benefit. This is a licensing program from Microsoft that allows you to take the on-premises Windows server that you have already purchased and apply that Windows server to the cloud. So what do I mean by that? Remember we said that you have to rent the Windows Server operating system from Microsoft. You have to pay for Windows Server in Microsoft Azure. But when you use Azure Hybrid Benefit, you don't have to do that. You take the cores that you've purchased already, you go to IntcomeX and you purchase something called a CSP software subscription. The CSP software subscription is sold in packs of 8 cores, and they give you the permission, the right, the entitlement to run Windows Server in the cloud. So you don't have to pay for Windows Server twice. Another very big savings. And you also stop the Windows Server meter from spinning. The fourth area and the fourth opportunity to save money off the list price of Azure is to use a technology from Nerdio called autoscaling. What is autoscaling all about? Well, if you use Nerdio, you have the ability to tell Microsoft Azure when to turn off and when to turn on automatically. So let's say you have a customer and at night they don't come to work and they don't need to use Microsoft Azure. Wouldn't it be great if you could turn off Microsoft Azure so the meters don't continue to spin? Well, that's the idea of autoscaling. With autoscaling, the system, the Nerdio system, tells Microsoft Azure when to turn off, when to turn on, when to expand, and when to shrink, so that you don't have to pay for the Microsoft Azure that you're not using. So those are 4 ways that you could save money off of the pay-as-you-go price of Azure. Become a CSP reseller with IntcomeX, leverage the Azure Reservations, leverage the Azure Hybrid Benefit, and use Nerdio to autoscale. Many MSPs who work with us, we work with more than a few thousand MSPs, are using these recommendations every day, and they're saving between 60 and 80% off of the list price of Azure, 60 to 80%. 60 y 80. I think I got that right. So, there's no reason not to do these things. A lot of times when MSPs say, well, I'm looking at Microsoft Azure, but it's too expensive, it's because they're not using these recommendations. They're not saving money off of the base cost. Most MSPs are just looking at the pay-as-you-go price, the most expensive price, and they're saying, well, I can't afford that. Well, not too many people pay the pay-as-you-go price. Most people save money who are MSPs by doing these things. Now, the fourth step in building a cloud practice in Azure is to actually define the offer. You need to decide what it is you're going to be offering your customer. We've also written a white paper on this for you, how to create Azure offers and packages. And when you read it, you'll see how we show you how to do this. You're going to want to have some different offers, excuse me, that you offer to your customers. You're going to have different packages. Each package is going to have different types of software and management and services in it. So it's important for you as an MSP to really learn how to do this so that you can be successful when it comes to offering Microsoft Azure to your customer. Excuse me. Okay, we are going to shift now into a discussion about Nerdio. So our mission at Nerdio is to empower each and every one of you to build a successful cloud practice with Microsoft Azure. And our product that Intcomex sells is called Nerdio for Azure. With Nerdio for Azure, we've made investments in 4 primary areas to help you build a cloud practice in Azure. I'd like to take you through each one of these areas. The first is deployment. With Nerdio for Azure, you can deploy your customer into Microsoft Azure fully in 2 to 3 hours. Now, how does that work? You go to Intcomex, you get your Azure and Microsoft 365 subscriptions, you get Nerdio, and you plug your subscriptions into our tool here. You connect them to our tool. And within 2 to 3 hours, your entire customer will be deployed in Microsoft Azure. The domain controller, Active Directory, the networking is built out, the storage, the backup, the virtual desktops, including Windows Virtual Desktop, the Microsoft 365 environment, the file, application, database servers, everything that you would have to do by yourself, we automatically build for you, so it's very fast and it's very accurate. You don't need to become an Azure expert to do this. It's done for you with Nerdio. The second area that we've invested in is helping you understand the pricing of Microsoft Azure. So we've built something called the Nerdio Cost Estimator. With the Nerdio Cost Estimator, we ask you some questions. So we ask you questions about the customer environment that you want to build. And once you've answered those questions, we provide you with a sheet that looks like this. We give you a per user, per month cost to you to purchase Azure, Microsoft 365, and Nerdio from Intcomex. So we demystify the cost. You know how much it's going to cost you. And we also architect the desktops for you. What do I mean by that? So if you look at the bottom of the screen, we show you for your deployment which virtual machines you need, which virtual machine family, how many cores, how much memory, and everything you need. So you now as an MSP are in control. You know exactly what you need and you know exactly what it's going to cost. You take the cost, you put your managed services on top of it, you put your profit on top of it, and then you go to your customer with a per user per month offer to move them to the cloud. So this is the pricing that we help you with. The third investment we've made is management. Once you've brought your customer into Microsoft Azure, we help you manage your customer in Azure. We help your help desk be more efficient because your customer is going to be calling in every day with questions. They're going to want to, ask you things like, hey, I lost my password. I need to be added to an Active Directory group. I need a bigger file server. So really, what we do is we allow you to manage your customer in Azure with the Nerdio admin portal that you see. And anything you want to do in Microsoft Azure, we allow you to do in 3 clicks or less. So we simplify the management of Microsoft Azure. Finally, the fourth investment that we make is optimization. With optimization, this is the auto scaling that I talked about earlier, where we've built the auto scaling into our product so that you can turn off and on Azure resources as needed when customers are not using it. I saw there was a question. I'm going to get to the questions at the end, if that's okay to everyone. I'll be finished with the slides, and then we can answer as many questions as you have. So those are the 4 investments that we've made with Nerdio for Azure. We have the deployment, we have the pricing, we have the management, and we have the auto scaling. Now, if you ask us, where does Nerdio fit in to the whole thing, right? So I always like to show this graphic. The customer is at the center. Your small and medium business customer is at the center. They have their desktops, they have their Microsoft 365, backup, security. You, the MSP, you are the black circle that goes around the customer. You are helping your customer be successful with support and monitoring and migration and strategy. What's the role that we play at Nerdio? We support you, the MSP. We help you, the MSP, be successful. So just like you have maybe an RMM tool, a PSA tool, a security tool, now you have a Azure automation tool that allows you to manage and build your cloud practice in Azure. We have two primary products that we sell through IntcomeX. The first is called Nerdio for Azure Core. You would use Nerdio for Azure Core when you want to take a customer who has an on-premises server and move it to the cloud. And you could use all of our tools. You could use the deployment, pricing, management, and optimization, and we charge you $59 a customer account a month, your customer. The other product that we sell, which is our most popular product, is Nerdio for Azure Enterprise. With Enterprise, it does everything that Core does, and it allows you to deploy and provision virtual desktops. So with Core, there's no virtual desktops. There's no WVD, there's no Windows Virtual Desktop, there's no RDS. With Enterprise, you can deploy virtual desktops, and we charge you $12 a desktop a month to use our tool. Okay. So in terms of the next steps, I think that everybody who's on this call today definitely needs to figure out how to begin building your cloud practice in Microsoft Azure if you have not already. Every MSP in the world has at least one customer that certainly can move to the cloud. Maybe they have a server that needs to be decommissioned and you don't want to buy another server. Instead, call up IntcomeX and get started on the journey to the cloud. We are here to help you at Nerdio. We have a number of things we can help you with. If you go to our website, you could go to getnerdio.com, and we have something called the Nerdio Academy. With the Nerdio Academy, we have more than 700 articles and videos to teach you how to build a cloud practice in Azure. There is a free trial of our product that's available through us or through IntcomeX, so feel free to connect to it. And we have a free version of our cost estimator that I showed you. If you want to price out what a customer may cost, you can do that as well. So I always like to conclude by offering my email address, jlandys@getnerdio.com, and I would welcome any of your questions. I'd be happy for our team to meet with you, to talk to you, to help you on the journey with IntcomeX to move to the cloud with Microsoft Azure. So I'm very happy to take your questions on email, but I'm also happy to take your questions here in the Q&A. So please feel free to start with the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. I see there's someone who have a question. You can unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can type it in the chat.
Hi, if I'm understanding correctly, there is a possibility to just deploy whatever I have on premises to the cloud. Just need to confirm how Nerdio works the connection between the Active Directory to the Azure Active Directory. Normally that takes some time to connect. So how is it? Looks so fantastic that I need to ask.
Yeah, so Luis, we have a tool called Hybrid AD that allows you to move the on-premises Active Directory into Azure AD. What I would recommend, Luis, is if you see my email address here on the slide, please send me an email and we'd be happy to walk you through the step-by-step. But yes, it makes it a lot easier to be able to do this. That's one of the beauties of Nerdio. So please feel free to reach out. Thank you for your question, Luis. What other questions? Luis, where are you located, by the way?
Physically in Florida and in Dominican Republic.
Great, excellent. Yeah, please reach out to me on email and we're very happy to help. Any other questions that people have? Any questions?
Hi, I'm trying to understand the procedure here. So we go through Intcomex, and Intcomex quotes us the Nerdio discounted pricing. And after we sort out the quotes and purchase through Intcomex, then we access the Nerdio site to deploy.
Yeah, that's basically right, Niall. So you would go to Intcomex and you would get three things. You would get your Azure subscription, your Microsoft 365 subscription, and your Nerdio subscription. And once you have all of that together, you use the Nerdio portal, you use the Nerdio product to start the process of deploying your customer into Azure. And then you would also use Nerdio to manage your customer in Azure and to optimize it with the auto scaling. That's right. Does that make sense now? Niall?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Joseph. And for all of you that still doesn't have the credentials to use the platform from Nerdio, just send me an email. I can guide you in the process, and I will send you a form so you complete with your information, and we can register you with Nerdio directly, so you can start to try and to test, and you can have an internal user license demo account so you can use the product. Okay, so I'm going to type my email address here in the chat so you can all send me an email as well.
Great. Any other questions that I could answer?
It seems like we don't have more questions in the chat. Joseph?
Okay. Well, we have two more classes coming up this week. I believe on Wednesday we have a class, which is Windows Virtual Desktop. So that'll be exciting. And then on Friday we have a class which is about pricing an Azure environment using the Nerdio cost estimator. So I look forward to seeing everyone there and hopefully more of your colleagues. So thank you so much. And appreciate the partnership with Intcomex on these webinars. Thank you, Marlene and team. And we'll see you on Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.